When I asked my daughter-in-law when the grand opening of my son's restaurant would be, she answered, "We celebrated yesterday, but only with the special people." 1 week later, she called me. "The bills are overdue. Did you send the wire transfer?" I replied, "Didn't I tell you?" Do you know that moment when the ground just disappears beneath your feet? When you realize that the person you loved, protected, and supported your whole life looks at you like you are nobody? Well, I lived that moment at 70 years old in a call that lasted less than 2 minutes, but it split 45 years of dedication in two. My name is Steve, and this is the story of how I learned the hard way that a father's love can be confused with foolishness when the wrong people enter your family. Let me tell you how $150,000, half of my life savings, went down the drain in the hands of my daughter-in-law, and how she had the nerve to call me 7 days after humiliating me to ask for more money as if I were an ATM, as if I had no feelings. But wait, because this story does not end with me crying into my pillow. It ends with her learning that a father can be generous. Yes, but never naive again. If you have ever felt used by your own family, if you have given your all and received ingratitude in return, stay with me until the end, because what happened after that call will show you that it is never too late to reclaim your dignity. And before we start, if you like true stories of overcoming odds and justice, subscribe to William's Revenge Stories and hit the bell, because here we share stories of people who refuse to be stepped on. And believe me, you are going to want to know how this story ends. It was a Tuesday morning. I was watering my red geraniums on the patio, the ones that Linda, my late wife, had given me for our 35th anniversary. She died 4 years ago. But the flowers keep living. It is funny how plants are sometimes more grateful than people. Right? The phone rang. It was Michael, my only son. My heart always did a little jump when I saw his name on the screen. Parent stuff, you know. That naive hope that he is calling just to ask how you are. If you ate already? If you need company? I answered, smiling. "Hello, son. What a nice surprise." His voice came through a bit rushed, a bit distant. Noise of cars in the background. "Hey, Dad, listen. I am talking fast because I am stuck in traffic. I just wanted to know. Did you see the photos of the restaurant that Sarah uploaded?" Sarah, my daughter-in-law for 3 years, the woman who entered my son's life and little by little pushed me out of it. "Yes, I saw them, son. It looks very beautiful. When is the grand opening going to be? I want to go dressed up nice to support you in this important moment." Silence on the other end. One of those silences that lasts 2 seconds, but feels like an eternity. "Dad, the thing is, well, the opening was yesterday." My hand trembled. The watering can almost slipped. "What do you mean yesterday?" "But nobody told me. I thought it was going to be later on." I heard muffled voices. He had put his hand over the phone to talk to someone. Then he came back. "It is just that everything happened very fast. You know, Sarah organized everything. It was something very small. Something small." The words bounced around in my head. "But Michael, I put $150,000 into this restaurant. Half of the inheritance your mother left. I thought it was natural that I would be there." "Dad, do not take it like that. Later we will arrange a little visit with you. Right now I have to hang up, okay? Love you." And he hung up. I stood there with that silent phone, feeling a pain in my chest that was not physical. It was worse. It was the pain of understanding that you are not a priority, that you are convenient when it is time to open the wallet, but disposable when it is time to celebrate. But I still had not seen the worst. 3 days later, Sarah uploaded the official photos of the opening, and that is when my world collapsed. It was not something small. There were more than 150 people. Golden balloons, a huge buffet, a live band playing, waiters serving premium drinks. Her parents were there sitting at a decorated table as if they were the kings of the place. Her father gave a speech, Her mother cut the red ribbon with Michael and Sarah, and I was in my house, feeding the pigeons in the square. Thinking the opening was still going to happen, I started looking at the photos closely. I recognized people. There was Lucy, Michael's childhood friend. There was Ralph, his cousin, even Mrs. Miller, my neighbor for years, who they surely invited out of courtesy. Everyone was there except me. In the caption Sarah had written, "Magical night with the people who really matter. Eternal gratitude to those who believed in this dream. Who believed, I paid." I held my son's hand when he said he wanted to leave his job to become a businessman. I was the one who left behind the security of my old age to finance this dream. But it did not matter. I cried that night. I cried like I had not cried since Linda's funeral. Not from the pain of loss, but from the pain of humiliation. Because losing someone to death is inevitable. But being thrown away while you are alive, by choice, that hurts in a way that has no remedy. I called my friend, Robert, he is 73, also a widower, and he became my friend after our wives left us. Every Saturday we drink coffee together, we play cards, we complain about life. He arrived right away. He found me sitting in the kitchen with the phone in my hand and swollen eyes. "Steve, what happened?" I showed him the photos. I told him everything. He read every comment, every compliment people made, every thank you. Sarah answered, and at no moment did she mention my name. Robert took off his glasses. He cleaned them slowly. He took a deep breath. "You know, I never get involved in other people's lives. Right, Steve? But now I am going to speak. This girl is using you, and your son is letting her do it. But he is my son, Robert, and you are his father. And a father deserves respect, not just money, respect." I went to bed that night with a knot in my throat, but deep down I still had hope. Hope that Michael would call, apologize, explain that it had been a misunderstanding. He did not call. But 7 days later, Sarah did call, and there, my friend, began the part that changed everything, because when she opened her mouth to ask me for more money, without a shred of shame, I understood it was time to stop being a father and start being smart. Sarah's call came on a rainy day. I remember because I was making homemade bread, that sourdough bread Linda liked. Even though 4 years have passed without her, I keep making it. It is my way of keeping her alive, you know, in the smells, in the gestures, in the little things we built together during 45 years of marriage. Linda was an elementary school teacher. I was a math teacher. We met at a teachers' meeting in 1975, at that high school near the suburbs. She was shy, wore thick-rimmed glasses, and had a crooked smile that won me over from the first time I saw her. 3 years later, we got married, and the following year, Michael arrived, our only son. All our lives, we never had extra money, but we never lacked anything either. Food on the table, clean clothes, new supplies to start the school year. Vacations were at my sister's house in Florida, in a small apartment where we shared a room with my nephews. But they were happy vacations. Simple, but happy. When Michael was born, I made myself a promise. This kid is going to have everything I did not have. He is going to study. He is going to have opportunities. He is going to be someone in life, and I kept my word. We tightened our belts. We saved on everything. But we paid for his business administration degree. He graduated at 23. Linda and I cried with emotion at the graduation. Life went on. Michael got a job at a logistics company, rented a small apartment, started his life. We saw each other every Sunday, lunch at home. That chicken stew he liked since he was a kid. After eating, coffee with sweet bread, chatting in the living room, silly laughter, watching cartoons. They were simple Sundays, but they were ours. Then came Linda's diagnosis. Aggressive pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave her 6 months. She lived 9 months fighting every day, as if it were the last, and it was. On a Tuesday morning, she grabbed my hand, smiled in that way that was hers, and told me, You are the best thing that happened to me in life, Steve. And she closed her eyes. I was not ready. You never are. Right. Michael supported me at the funeral. He held my hand during the whole memorial. He called me every night to ask if I had eaten dinner already, if I was okay, if I needed anything. In those first months as a widower, my son was my rock, my certainty that I was not alone. When the will came out, I discovered that Linda had been more visionary than I imagined. The house was paid off. That 3-bedroom house we bought in the 90s, with the backyard full of orange trees. And there was $300,000 between savings, life insurance, and an investment I did not even know existed. It was around that time Michael met Sarah. She worked as a marketing director at a startup. Hair always flawless, nails done, designer clothes, different from the girlfriends he had before. Those simple middle-class girls like us who arrived to eat at home in sandals. Sarah always arrived in heels. At first I tried to love her. I swear I tried. I made those special meals. I took care of dessert. I asked her questions about her job, about her family, but she always had a barrier, a polite but cold smile. She answered with one-word answers, looked at her phone in the middle of the conversation, found excuses to leave early. Dad, she is just reserved. Michael would tell me when I made comments, give her time. You will understand each other. But we never understood each other. 6 months into dating, things changed. Michael started missing Sunday lunches. At first, it was once a month. We are going to spend the weekend at the beach, Dad. Then it became 2, 3 times. Sarah's family invited us to a barbecue. We have an important commitment. I understood. He was in love. He was building his life. I could not be selfish. But it hurt. That big table that was always full started to have empty chairs, and I started eating alone, looking at the place where Linda used to sit, where Michael used to laugh at my stories. It was one of those lonely Sundays that Michael called me. Enthusiastic voice. That enthusiasm I had not heard in a long time. Dad, I need to tell you something. Sarah and I decided to quit our jobs and open a restaurant. My heart shrank, not from happiness, from fear. But son, do you have experience in this field? A restaurant is a difficult business. Sarah has connections, Dad. She knows suppliers. She has already worked in gastronomy, and I have always dreamed of being a businessman. You know that. Dreamed since when? But I did not say anything. I just asked, and how are you going to finance this? We have saved like $50,000, but we need more for the remodeling of the place, equipment, initial merchandise. Dad, we would need like $150,000 to start. There was the reason for the call. We can make a contract, Dad. You enter as an investor, as in when the restaurant starts making a profit. We pay you back with interest. Investor. The word sounded strange in my mouth. Son, it is a lot of money. It is almost half of what your mother left. I know, Dad, but it is for our future. I promise you, it is going to work, and you are going to feel proud of me. Those words broke me. Proud of him. I had always been proud of him. From the first drawing he made in kindergarten to the university diploma. Sarah got on the call. Sweet, persuasive voice. Mr. Steve, I know it is a large sum, but you will see. In 2 years, we pay you everything back, and you will be able to say you helped your son realize his dream. That is where I should have suspected. I should have asked for details, asked for a business plan, consulted a lawyer. But I was a dad, and a dad believes. A dad propels. A dad sacrifices. I transferred $150,000 to Michael's account in 3 payments. I signed a paper that Sarah called an informal agreement. Nothing registered, nothing official, just a verbal promise that they would recognize me as an investor. And you know what? The only thing she asked me was, Mr. Steve, it is better that we do not discuss the amount with others. Okay. You know how people are. They get envious. I accepted. I kept the secret because I trusted. And there began the biggest mistake of my life. You know that moment when you are in a situation and you cannot see the obvious, when everyone around you sees it, but you insist on believing that everything is fine. Exactly, that was happening to me. And the worst is that I knew. Deep down, I knew. But I decided to ignore it because accepting the truth meant accepting that my son had changed, and that pain was too big to fit in my chest. The first sign came 2 weeks after the money transfer. It was Sarah's birthday, 32 years old. I had bought a simple gift, a strawberry cake from that fine bakery on the avenue she always talked about, and I called Michael to know what time the party would be. "Oh, Dad, it is going to be something quite intimate. You know, just her closest friends." Closest friends. I had just deposited $150,000 in his account, but I was not close enough to be at my daughter-in-law's birthday. "I understand, son. No problem. Then I will leave the gift at your house." "Okay." "Better not, Dad. We are kind of struggling with the restaurant remodeling. I will pick it up later." He never picked it up. The cake stayed in my refrigerator until it went bad. I threw it away a week later with that knot in my throat of someone who knows. It was not the cake they rejected. It was me. The second sign came at Christmas. I had always hosted Christmas Eve at my house. Always. Since Michael was born. Christmas was with me. Roast turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes. That ice cream log, that was a family tradition. The table was beautiful. I had put on that red tablecloth my mom gave me when I got married. Lit candles. Made everything smell like cinnamon. On December 20th, I spoke to Michael. "Son, this year I thought about doing a smaller Christmas Eve. Simpler. Just us three. What time are you arriving on Christmas Eve?" Silence on the other end. That silence that had already become routine. "Dad, the thing is, we plan to spend Christmas at Sarah's parents' house this year." The floor disappeared again. "But son, we have always spent Christmas together. I know, Dad. But her family is big, you know. They insisted a lot. Maybe on New Year's we see each other. Maybe." The word hurt more than it should have. "All right, son, enjoy it." I spent Christmas alone. I made a small chicken, a salad. I did not even put on the red tablecloth. I sat in front of the TV watching those end-of-year specials, pretending everything was fine. But at midnight, when the fireworks were heard, I cried. I cried for Linda, who was no longer there. I cried for Michael, who decided not to be there. And I cried for me, because I was becoming invisible. Robert knocked on my door at 2 a.m. He had seen the light on. "Is Steve okay?" I lied that I was. He came in anyway, made chamomile tea, sat on the armchair with me until I stopped shaking. He said nothing, just stayed. And in that moment I understood that sometimes silent presence is worth more than 1,000 words. The following months were a sequence of small exclusions. Each one hurt a little less than the previous one. Not because the pain was diminishing, but because I was going numb. I tried to visit their apartment 3 times. 3. The first time Michael said they were painting and the house was a disaster. The second that Sarah had a migraine and needed silence. The third they did not even answer the buzzer. I stayed downstairs holding a lasagna dish that I had made with so much love, looking at the windows on the 6th floor, knowing they were in there. I went back home with the whole dish. I ate it alone over the next 3 days. Mrs. Miller, my neighbor, started to notice. "Steve, I have not seen Michael around here for a while. Is everything okay?" "Ah, he is busy, Mrs. Miller. He is opening a restaurant. You know how it is." She looked at me in that way, that look of pity mixed with concern. "Be careful." "Okay. A good mother-in-law is a distant mother-in-law, but a dad who gives money and does not even receive a visit. That has a name." I pretended not to understand, but I understood perfectly. The third sign, and maybe the most painful, arrived on a Saturday afternoon. I was at the pharmacy buying blood pressure medicine when I ran into Lucy, Michael's childhood friend. We had always been close. She called me Uncle Steve. "It has been so long since I saw you. We chatted there between the shampoos and vitamin C. She told me she was getting married, that she was getting married in March, that she was excited, and then without thinking it slipped out. By the way, I ran into Michael last week at the downtown square. He and Sarah were buying furniture for the restaurant. They were super excited. Sarah showed me the dishes they had chosen, all very fancy. My smile froze. That is great. And he invited me to the opening. He said it was going to be in March, too. Maybe we can coordinate the date so I can go to both events. She laughed innocently. I laughed with her. But inside I was collapsing. They were inviting friends, choosing dishes, planning the opening, and I, the person who had financed everything, knew nothing. I went home, locked the door, sat on the kitchen floor and let it out. I cried until I had no more tears, until my throat hurt, until I finally accepted what I had been denying for months. They had used me. That night, Robert came with fresh bread and butter, the usual ritual. But when he saw my swollen face, he did not ask anything, just said, "Steve, you need to understand something. Generosity has a limit, and that limit is called dignity. But he is my son Robert, and you are his dad. That should mean respect, not exploitation." I knew he was right, but I was not ready to act yet. Not yet. Because the worst, the moment that would make everything explode, was still to come, and when it arrived, there was no turning back. March arrived with that suffocating heat that makes clothes stick to the body. I was in the kitchen peeling potatoes when the phone rang. It was a message from Michael, not a call. A message because he did not even have time to talk to me anymore. "Dad, the restaurant is almost ready. It is awesome. You are going to love it." There it was. After 8 months of hearing excuses, of receiving crumbs of attention, of being treated like a distant acquaintance. Finally, I was going to see where the money Linda had saved with so much sweat had gone. I did not wait for a formal invitation. The next day I took the subway. Yes, I still took the subway, even though I had a car in the garage. Old habit of saving money. I went to the address I had written on a crumpled piece of paper in my pocket. 43 Oak Avenue. Nice neighborhood. One of those places where the sidewalks are wide, trees well pruned, imported cars parked in front of buildings. When I saw the facade, my heart shrank. It was not a simple restaurant. It was a project, a work of people who had money to invest in luxury. Smoked glass on the whole facade. Illuminated sign even though it was daytime. Those giant ornamental plants at the entrance. Taste of tradition. It was written in golden cursive letters with a drawing of a clay pot that looked more like a work of art. I pushed the door. The smell of paint was still in the air, mixed with the aroma of noble wood and fresh coffee. The dining room was huge. There were, at least, 80 seats distributed on solid wood tables, each with a different centerpiece. Succulent plant, aromatic candle, cloth napkin folded in origami. The walls had big paintings, paintings imitating village markets, copper pots hanging as decoration, rustic shelves full of glass jars with colorful grains. Everything thought out, everything expensive, everything very far from the simple regional food restaurant Michael had sold me on. It had cost much more than $150,000. How can I help you? I turned around. It was a young guy. Impeccable black uniform. That type of employee trained to be polite to customers. I am the owner's dad. Michael's. His face lit up. "Oh, you are Mr. Steve. Wait for me. I am going to call him Mr. Steve." At least the employees knew who I was. I stood there planted in the middle of the room, turning slowly, trying to calculate mentally how much each detail had cost. The Italian espresso machine, the integrated sound system playing low jazz, the porcelain floor imitating polished concrete, the central air conditioning that made no noise. Where had the rest of the money come from? Dad? Michael appeared coming out of the kitchen, white apron, messy hair, quick smile, but tense smile. It was not happiness to see me. It was surprise. Bad surprise. Hello, son. I came to take a look. You said it was almost ready? Yes. But we are still in the adjustment phase. You know, testing recipes, training the team. He looked to the side, uncomfortable. You could have warned that you were coming, warned, as if I needed authorization to see the place I had financed. Sorry, son. It is just that I really wanted to. It is awesome, you know, way above what I imagined. He gave me a half smile, but did not answer. That was when Sarah appeared. She came from the administrative office, heels clicking on the floor like a war drum, hair gathered in a perfect bun, beige silk blouse. She looked like a multinational executive, not a restaurant owner in the opening phase. When she saw me, her face hid nothing. Annoyed too, irritated. Mr. Steve, what a surprise. Surprise again, that poisoned word. Hello, Sarah. I came to see the restaurant. It is awesome. I congratulate you. Thanks. The voice came out dry as sand. But, as Michael probably already told you, we are still very busy. We have 1,000 things to resolve before the opening. I took a deep breath, gathering courage. And when is the opening going to be? I want to be there dressed up nice to support you guys. I looked at Michael. He looked away. I looked at Sarah. She crossed her arms, and there came the phrase that broke what still remained intact in me. Ah, the opening. She laughed briefly. She turned to see Michael as if waiting for him to speak, but he stayed quiet. Then she continued. We celebrated yesterday. The truth is, it was something very private, just for the special people. The world stopped. Special people. I had given $150,000, half of my security, half of the inheritance Linda had left, and I was not special enough to be there. Yesterday, my voice came out weak, but I did not know it. Well, yes. Mr. Steve, everything happened very fast. We barely had time to organize the list. You know how it is. Her tone was casual, as if she were explaining why she had not invited me to some random baby shower. I looked at Michael. I waited for him to say something. Anything. An apology. An explanation. A minimum gesture of shame. Nothing. He just looked at the floor, hands in his pockets like a kid caught in a lie. Dad. Later we talked calmly. Okay. Right now we really need to get back to work. I did not wait for him to finish the sentence. I turned around and left. I walked to the subway station with trembling legs, bag pressed against my chest, eyes burning with held-back tears. I was not going to cry in the street. I was not going to give them that pleasure. I got on the subway, sat next to the window, and it was not until the train started that I let it flow, slowly, in silence. Because there were people watching, and I still had pride. Special people. The phrase hammered in my head. Each syllable hurt like a blow. I arrived home and went straight to the bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed, where Linda and I slept for 45 years. I opened the nightstand drawer. I took out our wedding photo, both young, him in a beige suit, me in a simple white dress, smiling like two fools in love. Linda, I whispered to the portrait, I messed up. I gave our money to our son, and he threw me away like trash. What do I do now? The photo did not answer, but I knew what she would tell me. Stand up, Steve. You have always been strong. Except I did not feel strong. I felt used, humiliated, small. But that night, when the phone rang again, everything was going to change, because Sarah was going to make the fatal mistake, thinking that I was going to continue being the naive one in the story. I spent a whole week feeling dead inside. I woke up, drank my coffee without tasting it, watered the plants on automatic, watched the news without paying attention. Robert knocked on my door 3 times that week. I pretended I was not there. I did not want to talk. I did not want to hear advice. I just wanted to disappear. On Thursday morning, I was sitting on the patio watching nothing when the phone rang. Michael's number. My heart gave that silly jump as always. That naive dad, hope, thinking his son is going to call to apologize. I answered, but it was not Michael's voice. It was her. Mr. Steve, Sarah speaking. The tone was already different. It was not polite. It was not cold. It was urgent, almost desperate. Hello, Sarah. Listen. I am going to be direct because I do not have time to lose. The restaurant accounts are overdue. We need to pay the suppliers tomorrow. Did you do the transfer of the 2,500? I stayed quiet, processing. What transfer? I heard a sigh on the other end. That impatient sigh of someone who thinks they are dealing with someone slow. The monthly transfer. Mr. Steve. Michael had agreed with you. 2,500 monthly the first 6 months to help with cash flow until the restaurant stabilizes. My blood froze. Sarah, I never agreed to that. What do you mean you never agreed? Michael said you had accepted. We were counting on that money. Her voice was rising, becoming shrill. But I kept calm, terribly calm. I gave $150,000 as an initial investment. There was never talk of a monthly payment. But Mr. Steve, you cannot do this. We planned everything counting on that support. If we do not pay the suppliers, they cut our products. The restaurant just opened. Just opened. With an opening I was not invited to. Sarah, I think it is better you discuss this with Michael. He is in the kitchen. He cannot answer right now. We are in full lunch service. The restaurant is full. I need that answer right now. And it was there, listening to that woman demand money from me, with the same naturalness with which an overdue electric bill is demanded, that something definitely broke in me. It was not anger. It was clarity. Sarah, my voice came out firm. Let me ask you something. When was the opening again? Silence on the other end. Why? Just not answer. When was it? The week before last. But what does that have to do with it? And was I invited? Bigger silence. Mr. Steve, I already explained to you that it was something small. Small. I saw the photos. 150 people. Band. Buffet. Your parents cutting the ribbon. Michael's friends that I have known since they were kids. Even my neighbor was there. Everyone was there, except me. I heard her breathe on the other end, but she did not answer. Do you know what phrase you used, Sarah? Just for the special people. Do you remember? I did not mean it like that. Yes, you did. And that is fine. I got the message. I am not special enough to celebrate with you guys. But I am special enough to pay the overdue bills, right? You are exaggerating, Mr. Steve. Am I exaggerating? I gave $150,000, half of what my wife saved in 45 years of work. And you guys did not even have the decency to warn me about the opening. And now you call me to demand another $2,500, as if I were an ATM. You are being unfair. The restaurant is for your son. Don't you want to see him triumph? I want to see him happy, Sarah. But I also want to be treated with respect. And respect is what has been missing most in this story. Then are you going to let your son's business sink because of your pride? That question, that accusing tone, as if I were the villain of the movie. I am not going to let anything sink, Sarah, because it was never my responsibilities to carry the dream of you two all by myself. I already did my part, more than my part. You are going to regret this. Do you know what I regret already? Not having demanded a contract, not having put my name on the papers, having trusted when everyone around me was warning me. Then that is how it is. You are going to turn your back on your son. I took a deep breath, counted to 5. No, Sarah. The one who turned his back on me was him, when he decided not to invite me to the opening, when he let you treat me like trash, when he pretended I did not exist while celebrating the success I financed. Mr. Steve, what about the 2,500? I'm not going to transfer them. In fact, I'm not going to transfer anything else. Consider the bank closed. Shocked silence on the other end. You cannot do that. Yes, I can. And do you know why? Because it is my money. It is not an inheritance advance. It is not an obligation. It is the money Linda left me so I could live with dignity the years I have left. I'm going to tell Michael. Tell him, and while you are at it, ask him when was the last time he called me just to see if I was okay. When was the last time he came to visit me without it being to ask for money? Ask him that. I hung up. My hands were trembling. My heart beat unevenly. But for the first time in months, I felt alive. It was not anger. It was liberation. I sat in the patio chair and let the afternoon sun hit my face. I closed my eyes, breathed deep, and for the first time since Linda's death, I smiled. A small but real smile. The phone rang again. It was Michael. I ignored it. It rang 3 more times. I ignored them all. At night, Robert appeared with a pot of vegetable soup. I brought dinner. I know you are not eating well. I let him in. I told him everything, the call, the demand, my answer. When I finished, he stayed looking at me in silence. Then he raised his glass of water and said, "To Steve's health," who finally woke up, and we clinked glasses with him. But what I did not know was that this was just the beginning, because in the following days I was going to discover secrets that would transform my pain into strategy and my weakness into power. After that call, the house remained in a tomb-like silence. Michael did not try to contact me anymore. No message, no call, nothing. It was as if I had ceased to exist forever. And do you know what hurt the most? That deep down I still had hope. Hope that he would knock on my door, ask for forgiveness, say it had been a misunderstanding. But days passed. 1, 2, 3, 4, a whole week of silence. It was a Sunday afternoon, looking at my phone aimlessly, that catastrophe arrived. I went on Facebook, that social network I barely knew how to use. But my niece had taught me to see family photos. I typed the name of the restaurant in the search, Taste of Tradition. The profile appeared, public, full of photos, and it was there, scrolling down that feed, that the world came down on me for the second time. The photos of the opening were all there. It was not a private album. It was not a story that disappears. It was a pinned post at the top of the profile, with more than 500 likes and dozens of comments. I clicked, and every photo was a stab, the first photo. Full room, people with tequila glasses raised, caption, "Unforgettable night with those who believed in this dream from the beginning. From the beginning, I was from the beginning, I was the beginning." I swiped to the side. Second photo, Sarah's parents in the center of the main table. Cloth napkin, decorated plate, smiling like royalty. Her dad had a glass making a toast. Third photo, band playing, real band with instruments. Small stage set up in the corner of the room. Colored lighting. This was not improvisation. It had been planned weeks before. Fourth photo, buffet, huge table with gourmet snacks, imported cold cuts, fruits cut in the shape of flowers, mini desserts in little cups. That must have cost about $10,000, just that table. And then came the fifth photo, the one that made me get up from the chair and walk in circles around the living room, with the phone trembling in my hand. It was Michael and Sarah cutting a red ribbon at the entrance of the restaurant. Next to them, on each side, her parents, the 4 smiling, posing for the official opening photo, as if they were the founders, the owners, the only ones responsible for this success. And the caption was the icing on the rotten cake. Eternal gratitude to my parents, who always supported me in every dream. Without you, none of this would exist. And to my love, Michael, for embarking on this madness with me. We are an invincible team. I read that 5 times, 10 times, until I learned it by heart. Without you, none of this would exist. Her parents, not me. Her parents. I went to the comments already with tears running. Congratulations, you deserve it. What pride to see you triumph. Beautiful family, total success. I want to reserve a table already. And then I saw a comment from Mrs. Miller, my neighbor. Everything was beautiful. Delicious food, warm atmosphere. Congratulations to the kids and the families who supported them. God bless you. Mrs. Miller had been there. She had eaten. She had celebrated. And when I bumped into her on the street the next day, she said nothing. out of pity, because she knew they had not invited me. I started looking at the photos one by one. I looked for familiar faces. I recognized Lucy, that childhood friend of Michael. She was laughing, holding a glass of soda, hugging other people. I recognized Ralph, his cousin, who I knew since he was a baby. I even recognized Sylvia, my ex-colleague from school, who was Sarah's friend. There were at least 150 people in those photos, people who had been carefully invited, confirmed, organized on a list, and I, who had paid for all that, was at home watching the news. I threw the phone on the armchair. I got up. I started walking from one side to the other, feeling my chest tighten, my breath cut short. It was not just sadness. It was anger, an anger I had never felt before. Not when Linda died, not when I lost my dad, because those were inevitable losses. But this was a decision. Michael had decided not to invite me. He had decided to let Sarah humiliate me. He had decided to erase me from the history I had financed. I sat on the living room floor, leaned my back on the wall, and let it out. I screamed. I screamed loud until my throat hurt. I screamed for the injustice, for the pain, for the blindness of believing that a father's love was enough. I do not know how long I stayed there, but when I got up, there was something different in me. It was no longer desperation, it was decision. I grabbed the phone again, saved all the photos, took screenshots of all the comments, of the caption, of everything. Because if my 40 years as a teacher had taught me anything, it was the importance of keeping evidence. At 6 p.m., the doorbell rang. It was Robert. Steve. Open up. I need to talk to you. I let him up. When I opened the door, he came accompanied. He had brought a woman I did not know, about 35 years old. Simple jeans and t-shirt, hair tied in a ponytail. Steve. I present to you Patty. She needs to talk to you. It is urgent. I looked at the girl. She was nervous, wringing her hands, avoiding my gaze. Mr. Steve, she began, her voice trembling. I know we have never met in person, but I need to tell you something. Something you have the right to know. My heart accelerated. Who are you? I was Michael's girlfriend 6 years ago. We broke up a month before he met Sarah. My world spun. And what are you doing here? She took a deep breath, like someone gathering courage. Because I worked with Sarah at the same company, and I know things she did. Things about the money you gave them. I sat slowly on the armchair, looked at Robert. He signaled me to listen. What kind of things? Patty opened her bag, took out a manila envelope, put it on the little table between us. There are documents here, screenshots of conversations, receipts. Mr. Steve, she looked me in the eyes, and I saw tears forming. The money you gave was not just for the restaurant. My hand trembled when I grabbed the envelope. Explain yourself better. Sarah used $30,000 of your money to give the down payment and initial deeds for an apartment. An apartment that is only in her name. Michael does not even know. The paper I had in my hand felt like it was catching fire, and it was there, with that envelope in my hands, that I understood. The war had not even started, and I finally had ammunition. I opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a pile of papers, WhatsApp screenshots, bank receipts, even photos of a sales contract. I started reading, and every line was a punch in the stomach. The first conversation was between Sarah and a friend, dated November of last year, 2 months after I had made the transfer. I managed to convince the old man to release the cash. Now, just have to keep him at a distance, until everything is in our name. Old man. She had called me old man. The friend's answer. And does the apartment go or not go? I already set aside the down payment, $30,000. I close next week, only in my name. Obviously, if things get ugly with Michael in the future, at least I come out winning. My vision blurred. I had to stop reading. Breathe. Steve. Robert put his hand on my shoulder. Breathe deep. I looked at Patty. Red face. Watery eyes. How did you get this? I still had access to the old work email. We worked in the same department. We shared certain files. When I found out she had started going out with Michael, I kept an eye out. Not out of jealousy, Mr. Steve, but because I knew her. I knew what she was capable of. And why did you never contact me before? She lowered her head, because I was afraid. Afraid of getting in trouble, of causing problems. But yesterday I saw the photos of the opening. I saw her thanking her parents, pretending she had built everything alone. And I thought, if I do not do something, I am going to be an accomplice. I went back to the papers. There was a transfer receipt, $30,000 from Michael's account, the same account where I deposited the money, to Sarah's account. Date, 3 weeks after my investment. Description, apartment down payment. And there was more. A screenshot of a contract. 2-bedroom apartment in the Colonial District. Total value, $360,000. Down payment, $30,000. Buyer, Sarah Santos Ferrer. Only her name. Michael was not even a co-signer. Does he know this? I asked with a broken voice. No. She told him the apartment was in both names, but that they still needed to regularize the documentation. Lie. Everything registered only in her name since January. Patty, can I keep these documents? You can. They are copies. And there is still something else. She hesitated. Sarah has debts. Lots. Credit card to the limit. Consumer credit. She was desperate for money when she met Michael. It was not love, Mr. Steve. It was strategy. The puzzle pieces came together. The sudden interest in my son just after Linda's death. The indirect questions about the inheritance. The way she always led the conversation back to money. Thank you, I managed to say. You have no idea what this means. After Patty left, Robert and I stayed sitting in the living room in silence. He made coffee, put cookies on a plate. Automatic ritual of someone who cares. What are you going to do? He asked me. I do not know yet. But one thing I do know. I am not going to be the naive one in the story anymore. You can sue her. It is embezzlement, misappropriation. I know, but a lawsuit takes time, and a lawyer costs money. And in the end, even if I win, the damage is already done. He took a sip of coffee. Then what do you want? I looked at him. My neighbor, my friend, the only person who had stayed by my side when everyone turned their back on me. I want justice, but not in the traditional way. I want her to understand in her own flesh what it feels like to be used. I want Michael to open his eyes, and I want my money back. And how are you going to do that? I smiled, a small but determined smile. I do not know yet, but I am going to figure it out. Monday morning, I woke up early, took a long bath, dressed as God intended, shaved real smooth, grabbed all the documents Patty had given me, put them in an organized folder. I called Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris was a retired lawyer, friend of Linda's since college days. He must have been about 72, but a mind sharp as a razor. Steve. What a surprise. Is everything okay? I need your help, counselor. It is urgent. I made an appointment with him for that same day at 2 p.m. in his office, which was actually his home office where he still saw old clients. When I arrived, he received me with coffee and attention. I told him everything, from the initial investment to Sarah's call demanding the $2,500. I showed him the documents Patty had given me. He read it all calmly, taking notes in a yellow notebook. When he finished, he took off his glasses and looked at me seriously. Steve, legally you have a case. This constitutes fraud. She took money for one purpose and used it for another. You can sue, but without a formal contract, it is going to be difficult to prove how much you invested, and a lawsuit takes years. Do you really want to get into that? No. I want to fix this another way. Which way? I breathed deep. I want to make an agreement in front of witnesses. I want them to pay me down to the last penny, and I want Michael to know everything Sarah did. The lawyer smiled. You're talking about an ambush. I am talking about justice. He took a blank sheet and started writing. Then we are going to do it like this. I am going to draft a payment agreement for you, with terms, interest, everything done as God intended, and you are going to present it in a situation where they cannot escape. How so? Pick a public place, summon witnesses, and put them between a rock and a hard place. If they refuse in front of everyone, then yes, you go the judicial route. But if they accept, you guarantee your money without wear and tear. Do you think it will work? I think if there is something dishonest people are afraid of, it is getting exposed, and you have enough evidence to destroy her reputation. I left Mr. Harris's office with the payment agreement printed, signed, notarized, and a plan in my head. Because if I learned something in all this life as a teacher, it is that the best lessons are the ones never forgotten, and Sarah was going to have the most expensive class of her life. The next 3 days were the strangest of my life. I did not speak to Michael. I did not send a message. I gave no explanation. I simply disappeared from the map. And do you know what happened? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not a "Dad, are you okay?" Not a "sorry for the misunderstanding." Total silence. Until Thursday at 10 a.m., the phone rang. It was him. I let it ring 3 times before answering. I needed to feel that I was no longer desperate for his attention. "Hello, Dad." His voice was soft, almost childlike. That tone he used when he was a kid and broke something. "Are you okay? I was worried. Worried now. I was worried. I am fine, son." "Why?" "Ah, I do not know. We have not spoken in a few days, and that thing about Sarah calling you to ask for money. I wanted to explain to you. There is no need for you to explain anything to me." Silence on the other end. I expected resistance, crying, begging. I did not expect indifference. "Dad." I know things happened kind of weird with the opening thing. Everything happened very fast, really. Sarah was the one who organized. I did not even know well who she had invited. "Michael, why are you calling me?" The question came out dry, direct. He choked up. "Dad, what is wrong with this?" "Of course it is not for money." "Then why is it?" "Because it has been 2 months that you do not come to see me, except to talk about the restaurant. It has been 3 months since we ate together. Do you remember the last time you asked me if I am eating well? If I am sleeping well? Dad, answer Michael. Do you consider me someone special?" The silence that followed said it all. "Of course, Dad. You are my dad. How curious. Because Sarah said the opening was only for the special people. And I was not there. I already asked for forgiveness for that." "No, you gave an excuse. It is different. An excuse is when you recognize you messed up, and you did not recognize it." I heard him breathe deep on the other end. "Dad, what do you want me to do? I want you to be honest with me. Did you know Sarah was going to call me to demand $2,500 monthly?" Long pause. Very long. "We talked about that, yes. But I thought she had explained it to you well before." "She did not explain anything to me, Michael. She called me demanding as if it were an obligation, as if I were a bank. That was not her intention, Dad." "Yes, it was, and you know it." He stayed quiet. He had no argument because deep down he knew I was right. "Dad, the restaurant is struggling. We need help." "No." "What?" "No, I'm not going to help anymore. Not with $2,500. Not with 1,000. Not with 100. But, Dad, I already gave $150,000, Michael. Half the inheritance your mom left. And you guys paid me with humiliation. Now you are going to have to manage. You are being selfish." The word arrived like a slap. Selfish. Me who had sacrificed my whole life for him. Selfish is the one who uses his dad like an ATM and then does not even invite him to the opening. Selfish is the one who only calls when he needs money. Think about it, son. And I hung up. My hands were trembling. My heart beat unevenly. But this time it was not pain. It was strength. 2 hours later, Sarah appeared at my door. I saw her through the peephole. She was different. No heels, no heavy makeup. Simple jeans, white blouse, hair down, trying to look humble, trying to look human. I opened the door slowly, Mr. Steve, can we talk? About what? About everything. About the opening. About the money. I came to apologize. I looked at her in silence, analyzing, searching for sincerity. I found none. Come in. She entered, looked around the living room like evaluating how much the furniture was worth. She sat on the armchair I indicated, put a paper bag on her lap. I brought some stuffed peppers with cheese from the restaurant. Those stuffed ones you like. I did not like stuffed peppers, but I let it pass. Sarah, say once and for all what you came here for. She sighed, tried to force tears, managed to get red eyes, but no real tears came out. Mr. Steve, I know I made a mistake. The opening was my error. I should have insisted Michael invite you. But everything was so rushed, so many things to resolve. It got out of my hands. And the thing about demanding the $2,500, was that also because you were rushed? She looked away. I thought Michael had agreed with you. I swear if I had known he had not told you, I never would have spoken like that. Lie. All lies, and with every word my anger grew. But I kept calm. Sarah, you know how much I invested in the restaurant, $150,000, and we are eternally grateful for that. And do you know that legally? Without a contract, that constitutes a donation, that I cannot recover it. Her eyes shone. For a second she could not hide her smile. Yes, technically yes. But, Mr. Steve, you are not going to do that to your own son. Right. We are going to pay you when the restaurant stabilizes. And when will that be? In 5 years. 10 years. We need time. Time. I stood up from the chair. You guys had time to throw an opening party with 150 people, but you do not have time to pay me. Mr. Steve, I understand you're upset. Upset. I stood up too. I was humiliated, Sarah. Treated as invisible. Used. And now you come here with stuffed peppers and fake apologies, thinking I'm going to swallow it. I came with an open heart. You came because you were scared. Scared I cut the tap forever. Scared I make noise. Scared I ruin the pretty image you built. She stood up too, dropping the mask. What are you going to do? Sue us. Good luck. Without a contract. Without witnesses. Without anything. It is your word against ours. There was the true Sarah. Cold. Calculating. Poisonous. Get out of my house. With pleasure. But you are going to regret turning your back on your own son when he really needs you. There will be no turning back. He already needed me. And when I needed him, where was he? She grabbed the bag of peppers, threw it on the armchair with contempt. Goodbye, Mr. Steve. Hope you're happy in your loneliness. She slammed the door, leaving. I stood in the middle of the living room, listening to the sound of her steps going down the stairs. And then, for the first time in weeks, I laughed. I laughed loud, because she did not know. She had no idea. I had evidence. I had documents. I had witnesses. And above all, I had a plan. And that plan was about to explode in her face in a way she was never going to forget. After Sarah left, I sat in the patio chair and stared at the horizon. The sun was setting. Dyeing the sky, that reddish-orange, Linda said, was the color of hope. I grabbed the envelope Patty had given me and reread everything, each screenshot, each receipt, each documented lie. But something bothered me. A piece that did not fit. If Sarah had diverted $30,000 to buy an apartment, and the restaurant had cost much more than the $150,000 I gave, where had the rest of the money come from? Michael and she had saved $50,000 according to him, plus my $150,000, minus the $30,000 for the apartment. That gave $170,000, but that restaurant was worth, at least, $250,000. Where was the difference? I called Mr. Harris. Counselor, can you find out if there is a loan in Michael or Sarah's name? Or a business credit? I can try. But it will take me a few days. Do it for me. I need to know. 3 days later, a rainy Tuesday, Mr. Harris called me back. Steve, you were right. There is a loan of $80,000 in Michael's name. Progress Bank, absurd interest rate. First payment overdue last month. My stomach turned. Does he know? According to the documents. The signature is his. So, theoretically, yes. Send me that. Everything. I want to see it with my own eyes. The next day, the lawyer gave me a complete file. Loan contract, payments, guarantee, and it was there. Reading that the second bomb exploded. Sarah was the co-signer and had put as collateral the apartment she had bought with my money. I reread that 3 times to make sure I was not going crazy. She had used $30,000 of the money that was supposed to be for investing in the restaurant, bought an apartment only in her name, and then used that same apartment as collateral for the loan to cover the hole she herself had made. And if Michael did not pay, they lost the collateral. But since the apartment was only in her name, he would be the only one harmed by the default. She would keep $30,000 clean, without any consequence. It was a scam, a perfect scam. I sat at the kitchen table, with all those papers scattered, and for the first time I understood completely what was happening. My son was not just an accomplice. He was also another victim, a foolish, selfish victim, who had hurt me terribly, but a victim nonetheless. Sarah had played with both of us, with me and with him. I grabbed the phone. I called Patty. Patty, does Michael know the apartment is only in her name? No. She told him it was in process to add his name, but that it was going to take a few months due to registry bureaucracy, and he believed it. Mr. Steve. Michael always believed everything she told him. He was too in love to see clearly. I hung up and stared at those documents. There was so much material there, so much evidence, so many mistakes. I could destroy Sarah with that. I could expose her publicly. I could sue. I could make her pay. But if I did that, Michael would fall with her. His name was everywhere, and as bad as he had been to me, as weak, cowardly, selfish, he was still my son. So I had to be smart. I had to be surgical. I called Mr. Harris again, counselor. If I want to make a payment agreement, can I include an information disclosure clause? How so? Can I put a condition that forces them to tell me the truth about everything, about the loan, about the apartment, about where every penny went? He stayed thinking quietly. You can, but they are not obligated to accept. Ah, they are going to accept, because the alternative is going to be worse. Which alternative? Fraud lawsuit with all the evidence I have and public exposure. Steve, are you serious? Very serious. Draft the agreement. I want them to pay me the $150,000 in 36 monthly payments of roughly $4,500 with 3% annual interest. And I want them to recognize the misappropriation in writing. And if they do not accept, then yes, I go to war for real. The lawyer stayed quiet a moment. Have you changed, Steve? I have not changed. Just stop being naive. 2 days later, a Friday morning, I sent a message to Michael. Short, direct. I need to talk to you and Sarah. Urgent matter regarding the investment. Tomorrow, at noon, at the restaurant. I'm coming with my lawyer. Do not miss it. The answer arrived 3 hours later. Dad. What is that about the lawyer? Is that necessary? I replied. Yes, it is necessary. See you tomorrow. That night, I barely slept. I reviewed in my head every detail of the plan, every phrase, every document. I had to be prepared because there were going to be tears, screams, denials, but I could not waver. At dawn, I got up, went into the room that had been Michael's when he was a kid. It was still as he had left it when he moved out. Band posters on the wall, bookshelf full of high school books, the single bed with the blue quilt I had sewn myself. I sat on the edge of that bed and let the tears come out. Because deep down, with all the anger, all the disillusionment, all the pain, he was still my kid. The kid I had carried in my arms, who I had taught to tie his shoes, who I had taken to his first day of school. Linda, I whispered to the void, I hope you forgive me. But I have to do this. I have to teach him that a father's love is not a passport for abuse. There was no answer, but I felt a strange peace, as if Linda were there telling me I was on the right path. Saturday, I woke up at 6 a.m., took a long bath, chose my clothes carefully. Black dress pants, white silk shirt, leather shoes. I shaved close, combed my hair carefully, put on my wedding ring, which I had stopped wearing after Linda's death. I had to be strong, not just inside, outside too. At 11 a.m., Mr. Harris picked me up at home. He had the file organized, the agreement printed, everything ready. Are you sure about this, Steve? More sure than anything in my life. On the way, we stopped to pick up Robert and Patty. They were going to be my witnesses, my support, my army of two. When we arrived at the door of Taste of Tradition, I breathed deep. It was time to give the biggest lesson of my life. And this time I was the teacher, and they were the students. The restaurant had moderate activity, like 15 tables occupied. That typical Saturday lunch bustle, waiters circulating, smell of food in the air, background music playing softly. Everything perfect, everything functioning, everything built with my sweat. I pushed the door. The bell tinkled. A few heads turned. I recognized Lucy at a corner table with her boyfriend. She waved, embarrassed. I pretended not to see her. Michael appeared from the kitchen, white apron, tense face, when he saw Mr. Harris, Robert, and Patty behind me. He went pale. Dad, what is this? It is a meeting. Where is Sarah? He swallowed saliva. She is in the office. But, Dad, is it necessary to bring so many people? Yes, it was necessary. Call her. My voice came out firm. No room for discussion. Michael hesitated, but went for her. I chose the most central table in the restaurant, the one near the entrance where everyone could see. I sat with my back straight, hands crossed on the table. Mr. Harris sat to my right, Robert and Patty to my left. The customers started to notice. The atmosphere changed, became heavy. Sarah appeared, heels, fitted black dress, impeccable hair, trying to keep the businesswoman posture. But when she saw me, when she saw the people I brought with me, the mask trembled. Mr. Steve, what a surprise. I did not know you came accompanied. Sit down, Sarah. Both of you. They sat on the other side of the table, one next to the other, united, or at least trying to appear so. I opened the file Mr. Harris had brought, took out the first document, put it on the table, facing them. This is the proof of the $150,000 transfer I made in March of last year. You remember right. Michael looked at the paper, nodded. I remember, Dad, and we are very grateful. Wait for me. I have not finished. I took out the second document. This is the proof that 3 weeks after my transfer, $30,000 left your account, Michael, and went to Sarah's account. Description: apartment down payment. Michael's face changed. Confusion, surprise. Which apartment? Sarah went rigid. Michael: calm down. I can explain to you. Can you really explain, Sarah? I took out the third document, because this is the sales contract for the apartment in the Colonial District. Value $360,000. Buyer. I made a dramatic pause. Sarah Santos Ferrer. Only her. Your name is not there, Michael? The silence that fell was deafening. Even the background music seemed to have stopped. Dad, what are you talking about? Michael's voice came out broken. I am talking about Sarah, using the money I gave you guys to invest in the restaurant, and bought an apartment in her name without telling you. Michael, he turned towards her, eyes wide open. Is it true? She opened her mouth, closed it, tried to think of a way out. Michael, I was going to tell you. It was a surprise. I was going to put your name later. Lie. Patty's voice cut the air. She stood up, looked directly at Sarah. You told Andrea, your friend, that if things got ugly with Michael, at least you would come out winning. I have screenshots of the conversations, everything saved. Sarah paled. Michael closed his eyes. There is more. I took out another document. This is the loan contract for $80,000 you took out from Progress Bank. Co-signer, Sarah Santos Ferrer. Collateral, Colonial District Apartment. That same one she bought with my money. My voice trembled in the last sentence, but I kept control. If you do not pay Michael, the bank keeps the apartment. But since it is only in her name, the one who loses is you. She keeps the $30,000 clean. It was as if I had shot him. Michael got up from the chair. He swayed, leaned his hands on the table. Sarah, is all this true? She did not answer, just looked down, biting her lip. Answer, he shouted. Some customers jumped. 2 waiters stopped working. Her voice came out in a thread. But I was going to fix everything. Fix? You stole from me. You stole from my dad. You set a trap and put me in the middle. He pulled the chair, sat down heavy, hands on his head, and then, for the first time in years, I saw my son cry. Dad, I did not know. I swear to God, I did not know. I looked at him, this kid who had grown in me, who had been my reason for living, and I felt a strange mixture of pain and relief. I know you did not know Michael. I know she deceived you too. But you hurt me. You allowed her to treat me like trash. You decided not to invite me to the opening. You disappeared weeks without talking to me. And when you spoke, it was to ask for money. I know. I was an idiot. You were. But there is still time to fix it. I put the last document on the table. The payment agreement. This is a payment agreement. $150,000 in 36 monthly payments of $4,500 with interest. If you sign this here in front of these witnesses, I do not sue. I do not expose. I do not destroy. I just recover what is mine. Sarah tried to play one last card, and if we do not sign, I looked at her, and for the first time she saw who I really was. Not the naive old man, the strong man. If you do not sign, Sarah, I sue you for fraud. I have evidence. I have witnesses. I have documents. You are going to answer criminally, and when that happens, the press is going to love the story of the daughter-in-law who stole from her father-in-law to buy herself an apartment. Her eyes open very wide. And the restaurant sinks if we pay all that. You should have thought of that before robbing me. Mr. Harris put a pen on the table. You have 2 minutes to decide. Michael grabbed the pen. Hand trembling, he signed. Then he pushed it towards Sarah. Sign? Michael? I sign. She grabbed the pen. Signed. The signature came out crooked, angry. Mr. Harris picked up the document. 3 copies. 1 for me, 1 for them, 1 for the lawyer. Done. First payment is due the 15th of next month. I got up from the chair. Looked at Michael one last time. Michael, I still love you, but love does not mean accepting disrespect when you learn that. When you really understand the magnitude of the mistake you made. My door remains open, but not for the son who used me, for the son I raised to be a man of character. I turned towards Sarah. And you enjoy that apartment because it is the most expensive thing you are going to buy in your life. It cost you your reputation. I left the restaurant with my head held high. Robert grabbed my arm. Patty smiled discreetly, and when the door closed behind me, I breathed. I breathed like I had not breathed in months, because for the first time since Linda's death, I had control of myself again. 6 months have passed since that Saturday at the restaurant. 6 months that changed everything. The first monthly payment arrived the exact 15th day. $4,500 deposited in my account. I checked 3 times to make sure it was not a dream. It was not. The second payment also arrived, and the third. All on the agreed day, without delay. I discovered later through Patty that Michael had sold his car, a new sedan, that he had bought in the era of euphoria with the restaurant. He sold it and got a used one. Simpler. The money went straight to my account. I did not feel pity. I felt respect. Because for the first time in his life, he was paying for his own decisions. Sarah. Well, that story took a turn I did not imagine. 2 weeks after our meeting, Michael appeared at my door, alone, without warning. I rang the bell and my heart accelerated. It still hurt to see him, but I opened anyway. He came up slowly, as if every step weighed tons. When I opened the door, he was different, thinner, deep dark circles, unshaven beard. It seemed he had aged 10 years in 15 days. "Hello, Dad. Hello, son." We stood there facing each other, without knowing where to start. "Can I come in?" I made room for him. He entered, looked around as if visiting the house for the first time. He sat on the armchair where he threw himself when he arrived from school as a kid. "I broke up with Sarah." The words came out dry, without emotion, like someone reporting a fact. "When?" 3 days ago, after we had a huge fight. She told me I was weak, that I should have been on her side, that you were inventing everything. Then I asked to see the apartment contract. She refused." There I knew everything was true. He passed his hand over his face. I went to the registry, asked for a copy of the document. Everything is really only in her name. And when I confronted her again, she did not even deny it, just said she did it to protect her assets in case we separated, as if I were a threat. He made a long pause. "Dad, I was an idiot, a blind man, a coward. I let her mistreat you. I let her exclude you. I pretended not to see because I was, I don't know, spellbound. I thought she was different, modern, ambitious, but she was none of that. She was just interested." Tears started rolling down his face, and seeing my son cry like that, broken, was one of the hardest things I have faced. "Dad, I know I do not deserve forgiveness. I know I broke your trust, but I am here to tell you that I am going to pay down to the last penny. I am going to work whatever is necessary. I am going to sell whatever is needed. But you are going to recover your money. I know you are going to pay Michael. The payments are current. It is not just because of the contract. It is because it is right. It is the least I can do." I stayed quiet. I let him vent, because sometimes the best a dad can do is listen. "And the restaurant?" I asked. "It is working, with difficulties, but it is working. I had to fire 2 employees, cut expenses, renegotiate with suppliers, but it holds, and I am going to therapy." "Therapy?" "Yes, twice a week, because I realize I have problems, Dad, of self-esteem, of emotional dependence. I don't know, of being a man. I need to learn to be better." Those words touched me in a way I did not expect, because they showed maturity, showed that he was really changing. "Dad, I know it is going to take time. I know I am going to have to prove I changed. But I wanted to ask you something." "What?" "Can I come back to eat here on Sundays, without talking about money, without asking for anything, just to be with you like before?" I looked at him. My son, the kid I had carried in my arms, the man who disillusioned me, the human being who was trying to start again. "You can, but on one condition." "Which one?" "You wash the dishes after." He sketched a half smile, the first sincere smile I saw in him in months. "Deal." And so Sundays returned, with the chicken stew. Simple, without luxuries, without a party. Just him and me chatting about life, about mistakes, about new beginnings. Sarah. I found out she went back to live with her parents. The apartment was sold to cover part of the loan that was strangling Michael. She lost everything, everything she had stolen. And, according to Patty, now she works as a saleswoman in a clothing store. Life's irony. I did not feel anger. I felt indifference, because she no longer occupied any space in my chest. As for me, well, life took an unexpected turn. Robert, who had been my support during this whole nightmare, became something more. We started going out, movies, walks in the park, simple dinners at home. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, just good company. Steve, he told me one of those afternoons after coffee on the patio, "I do not want to rush you, but I appreciate you, and I think we deserve a second opportunity to be happy." "I appreciate you too, Robert. And yes, we deserve that. We did not get married. We do not live together, but we built something beautiful, something based on respect, companionship, company, the things that really matter. My money is returning little by little. I already recovered half of what I had invested, and I know I am going to recover the rest. But more important than money, I recovered my dignity. I learned that a father's love cannot be confused with submission. That generosity has a limit. That respect is not negotiable. And that never is it too late to stand up and say, enough is enough. The other day I was watering my geraniums, those red ones Linda had given me, when I thought of her. And do you know what I felt? Gratitude. Gratitude that she left me a structure, that she was a partner, that she taught me, even without words, that true love is companionship. And I felt pride in myself for not giving up, for fighting, for demonstrating that a 70-year-old man can rise from his ashes. Today, when I see myself in the mirror, I see someone different, not the broken Steve of 6 months ago, the Steve who was reborn from his ashes, stronger, wiser, more complete. And if there is a lesson I want to leave for those who listen to me, it is this. Never let anyone make you feel small, not a son, not a daughter-in-law, not family, because you are worth much more than what the people who use you can see. It took me 70 years to learn that loving oneself is not selfishness. It is survival. It is dignity. It is justice. And today I survived, with my head held high and my heart at peace. Last week I passed by the restaurant, not to confront, not to fight, just to see. It was working well. There were people eating, waiters serving. The atmosphere was pleasant. Michael was in the kitchen. I saw him through the service window, concentrated, working, serious. I did not enter. It was not necessary. I just wanted to see that he was getting ahead by his own effort when I was leaving. Michael saw me from inside. He came out running. Dad, why didn't you come in? I was just passing by. The place is fine. Do you want to come in? I treat you to a coffee. Another day, son. Today I have a date with Robert. We are going to the movies. He smiled. A genuine smile. It gives me much pleasure, Dad. You deserve to be happy. Those words, coming from him, meant more than any apology, because there I understood he had learned the lesson, that he had understood that a son is not the owner of his father's happiness, that we dads also have the right to live, to love, to be happy. I gave him a hug, the first hug we gave each other in more than a year. I love you, son, and I love you, Dad, and thanks. Why? For teaching me that respect is not asked for, it is earned and there. Standing on the sidewalk in front of the restaurant I had financed with my sweat, hugging the son who had betrayed me and who was now trying to redeem himself, I understood something important. Family is not the people who share your blood. Family is the people who respect your heart. And for the first time in a long time, I felt I had family again. Yesterday was Sunday. Michael arrived punctual at 2 p.m. As we had agreed, he brought flowers from the market, some simple daisies, for the house, he told me. We cooked together. He chopped vegetables. I seasoned the chicken. We chatted about simple things, about the weather, about the news, about his plans for the restaurant. After eating, he washed the dishes as we had agreed, without protesting, without playing hard to get, just keeping his word. When he finished, we sat on the patio with coffee. Dad, he told me suddenly, do you forgive me? The question caught me off guard. Why do you ask me that? Because I have been thinking a lot about everything that happened, about what I did to you, about how I treated you, and it hurts me. Michael, forgiveness is not asked for, it is earned. I know. That is why I ask you. Do I feel like I have earned it? I looked at him. This 35-year-old man who was still my kid. I saw genuine repentance. I saw real change. I saw humility. Yes, son, you have earned it. His eyes filled with tears. Thanks, Dad. You're welcome. But Michael, okay, Forgiveness does not erase consequences. You still have to finish paying. You still have to demonstrate every day that you changed. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is giving the future a chance. I understand it. Sure. Sure. And I think he did understand it, because there was maturity in his eyes. There was understanding. That night, when he left, I sat in my favorite armchair with a cup of tea. Robert arrived, like every night, with sweetbread and company. "How was Sunday?" he asked me. "Good. Very good. Did you forgive him already?" "Yes." "And how do you feel?" "Free." And it was true. I felt free. Free from resentment. Free from pain. Free from the burden of being a victim. Because forgiving is not forgetting. Forgiving is deciding that your peace is worth more than your pain, that your future is worth more than your past. This morning I woke up early, made my coffee, went out to the patio, watered my plants. The red geraniums were blooming beautiful. Linda would have been proud. The phone rang. It was Michael. "Good morning, Dad. Just wanted to tell you I deposited this month's payment, and that I love you." "Thanks, my son. I love you too. See you Sunday. See you Sunday." I hung up and smiled, a quiet, satisfied smile, because I had won something more valuable than money. I had won respect. I had won dignity. I had won the most important lesson of my life. Sometimes you have to hit bottom to learn to fly. Sometimes you have to get lost to find yourself. Sometimes you have to die a little to be reborn complete. If this story touched your heart, if you have ever gone through something similar, or know someone who is going through this, leave in the comments where you are watching us from. Tell us your story. Because here we do not judge, we welcome. Hit like if you believe it is never too late to start again. And subscribe to William's Revenge Stories to keep watching true stories of people who refuse to be stepped on. Because we all deserve a second chance, but nobody deserves to be used. A hug to each of your hearts, and remember, you are stronger than you imagine. Life taught me that true love is not submitting. It is respecting each other. That generosity has limits, and those limits are called dignity. That it is never too late to say no when something is wrong, and that sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the most. But that does not mean we should allow it. Today I walk with my head held high. I have 70 years, but I feel reborn, because I learned that age is not the years you have lived. Age is the wisdom you have gained. And today I am wise. Today I am free. Today I am happy. And if an old math teacher can stand up after being betrayed by who he loved most, you can too. Never is it too late to recover your dignity. Never is it too late to start again. Never is it too late to be happy. Because life does not end at 70. At 70, life just begins to make sense. With love and respect. From Chicago, Illinois, Steve Ramirez, a man who learned to love himself.